I'll just quickly introduce you and say a couple of things, and if that's okay. Yes.
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm going to sit there. So we're fine.
I'll just look at you.
Yeah. Okay. Hi everyone, welcome to this week's visiting speaker, Alison Slack. Is it fair to call you both a performance artist and a video artist?
Yeah. Multidisciplinary. Multidisciplinary.
I'll let Alison tell you more about herself as she carries on. Next week we did have a speaker. He's cancelled, unfortunately, so at this point in time there is no speaker next week. I'm trying to get someone to step in and do that, but for now, until you see posters or get an email, no speaker next week. Right, okay, I'll pass you over to Alison.
Yes. Hello. Yes, so I consider myself a multidisciplinary artist, because even though right now, currently I'm doing a lot of performance and video works, my practice runs across many mediums: sculpture, printmaking, sound art, and it's generally the art, the concept, that will generate the medium that I'm going to be using. So I never really pigeonholed myself into specifically this type of artist. It's just gone across. I'm an artist, and I'll work with different media depending on what the concept I'm working on. I am Canadian, but I moved to Hull in 2011. And on this slide, I studied at Concordia University in Montreal, and I've added a little web link if you ever wanted to check out the programs. I did my undergrad, which I believe is the honors?
Yeah, BA honors.
BA honors, and also my master's, which I completed in 2011, and then moved here. This is a sculptural piece, obviously. It's called entitled Controlled Conditioning. And I was working with the concept of the proliferation of medication and how easily, medication is prescribed to the public. So I did a body of work based on this whole concept. This is wood lathe painted and then silk screened onto it. The piece it's about a foot long, half a foot high, and the intent really was that the objects are meant to be held. And I'm really interested in using the viewer to complete the piece, that I encourage active participation. I'm not necessarily against the concept of, art objects are only supposed to be looked at, but I believe that, the viewer is an important part of any art object. The concept for this project came from a movie entitled Titicut Follies. This is a still from the movie. It's a documentary done by American filmmaker Frederick Wiseman, done in 1967. And he had gone into this mental health asylum for the criminally insane. And he did this documentary. It's very fascinating, but also quite disturbing. And it just reflects how mentally challenged or mentally disabled people, and also mentally insane, are treated. I think obviously now in 2013 it's a lot more open and acceptable, but back in 1967 they were just literally locked away, and that was it, were forgotten about. So I'm going to show you some more images of the pills that I made. They were getting bigger. And I was exploring, if this one you could twist off, but it was still solid inside. And then I'd done another one. This one, actually, you can open it, and it's hollow inside. And on the inside, I had stuffed little teddy bears. This piece is entitled Farmed. Again, it's wood lathe, painted, and then silk screened on top, the letters. But I also did some really small pills. This one's titanium steel and also acrylic. So really, you could hold them in your hand. And I did many of these ones, and they were, they were placed in a candy bowl. So, and I encourage people to just take one with them if they wanted to. Okay, so now we're going to switch. Oh, sorry, forgot there was also this one. This is a screen print on aluminium. And I did a series of silk screens on aluminium. And I used that surface just because it reflected the sterility and the coldness of hospitals. This one's fluphenazine, which is a medication used to control schizophrenia and bipolar. And yeah, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. All right, so now going to my print work. Some of you may recognize me because I've been on campus, and you'll see me in the print rooms. I volunteer there every Thursday. So I do a lot of printmaking, etching, lithography, screen. But I would say in terms of print, etching is the majority print form that I will do. I really like using multi-plates for the images. So this one is 7 plates. And then I'll rearrange the plates to create different images. So I guess you consider them varied editions. And then I also use a lot of text in my prints. And the text is not necessarily, I mean, they come from a stream of consciousness. There's not really any, specific reason why I'm actually writing. I just find that it's a really nice fluid way to complete the piece. I think I have a detail, yeah. Let's see. I had some notes here. What did I want to say? Yeah, so the text is random and abstract, and I'm trying to encourage the viewer to draw their own conclusion. I find it interesting when you go into a gallery, you see a piece, and everybody always looks at the title and figures out, from the title, they say, this is what this piece is about. I'll use random titles and random text, and it's really up for the viewer to make their own interpretation. I'm not bothered if they completely get a different sense than what I perhaps envisioned. And for this one is basically I'm using the same plates, but I've rearranged them in different order. So it gives a different, interpretation, using different color. The prints, these ones are quite large. They're 30 by 40 inches. I'm trying to think of what that's like, A1, maybe? A4? I don't know. Well, Canada, we don't work with this centimeters. And And the Printworks that I'm doing currently right now, it's just mainly testing different ways of printmaking, using different grounds, different resists, that sort of stuff. And this is another, it's 4 plates, 3 etched plates, and 1 photo intaglio. And then I just wrote by dipping, the end of a paintbrush into white ink, package diversion. Now we have to do, I apologize. I'm now going to start showing you some of my video works. Yeah.
You need to escape out of that.
Escape?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I like.
All right. So, where do I go? Oh yeah, here. That one.
It was on your memory stick, wasn't it?
Yeah, in there, and open with media classic photo.
Fantastic.
Sorry. Oh, jeez. This is a video of myself. It's entitled Bobby. It's about 3 minutes 26. And basically, I just taken some fabric and I printed the word "go" onto it. And then I was basically wrapping my ankles with this fabric, and you'll see it soon on the video. And from there, it's just like this absolute repetition. Then I try and walk. The concept is basically based on the notion of what does it mean to be lazy. And in our society, we're always meant to be productive and always supposed to be doing something. And how does that reflect on the individual? And so, we're always going and being busy and productive is a positive aspect. And so I was just kind of toying around with that notion in this piece. I think a lot of my video work and performance pieces are based around, I'll use my own body as the medium, the tool, to explore different notions and ideas. And so, yeah. They're quite funny to look at. Like personally, I find, because I haven't looked at these videos in a while, and then you just see them. My video works are very simple. I don't use a lot of effects, and when in terms of editing, it's just, obviously in Final Cut Pro, you can use a lot of like different filters and effects, etc. But when I do video editing, it's just very simple. I'll just import it into the timeline and then cross dissolve. Don't play a lot in terms of my video with the sound. I find that I'll use the sound that's actually playing during the performance piece. So this one I did in my studio, and I had the radio on, and then I just kept on looping it and looping it, looping it for the entire piece. The next video, wait a minute, do I have it? When the body forgets. So, I go to PowerPoint?
Do you want to go back to the PowerPoint?
Yeah, because this one played, didn't it?
Yes, I think it did. So we'll just go full screen.
Oops.
Maybe not.
Maybe go back to
there we go.
That's fine. Okay. This work is called When the Body Forgives the Mind. It's basically a compilation of different performances that I did. So I just kind of briefly took some clips to give a general idea of what I was working with. I was exploring the Duchenne smile. Now the Duchenne smile is apparently the only genuine smile that we have. And in terms, when you smile spontaneously and you get these little crow's eyes, crow's legs in your eyes and all that. Now, with this, I'm going, well, ultimately, it is the mind that controls the smile. And so when does the body forgive the mind? Because I was doing these endurance performance piece where I'd record myself, film myself smiling at different intervals. I'd start with 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes, 45 minutes, and then an hour. And when you get to that long of smiling, eventually that smile degenerates into, your chin is quivering, it looks as though you're grimacing, you're drooling. And so it was just toying with this notion of what it is to smile, because we think of smile as very positive and nice. And well, however, when you actually smile for any amount of time, it is actually going to be quite painful. So it was just a little bit of a contrast between, what is the smile and such a nice thing, and actually in reality, well, when you do it for a certain amount of time, it's quite, torture really. I felt it was quite torturous. All right. Escape? No. Oh, this.
Back on the slides.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Now on to this piece, Trading Skins. And you recognize from the poster, that's the Marionette. It's a life-size sculpture of myself. And it's made up part of mannequins, so the entire body is mannequin except for anything that you can physically see. So my hands, the calves, and the face were silicone. And so I was basically recreating myself in three-dimensional form. How the piece itself was presented was the contraption on the right. I actually was in it. And basically, you would say that this is a performance piece for two puppets and one puppeteer. And what I was trying to do is get people to come and, manipulate the mannequin, the puppet, but then also manipulate myself. In terms of the success of this performance, it's really hard to get people to actually come and play yourself, because we end up always having a certain amount of personal space. And for people to actually want to go and play you, it was hard to get that certain interaction. And then also it was hard for myself as a performance to let my body completely relax, because the system actually was hurt. It wasn't very comfortable. And you're just sort of hanging there, and you're trying to be limp, and you're trying to act like a marionette. But in reality, I don't think I was quite successful in that term. Now, the piece was based on at the center, there's a digital print. And now I think of, okay, so that's a close-up of the marionette. Yeah, it's of a tattoo that I have on my body. So it's a full-length piece. You know, it goes from my shoulders down to middle of my calf. And I think that this is really what stemmed the whole project. Because I've got a lot of tattoos. And I started thinking, well, what does it mean to have a tattoo in terms of your identity? Does it change yourself? Do you consider your skin and your body as a reflection of who you are? Or is your body just a thing? And you yourself, it comes from your thought processes and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I decided to basically generate the marionette, which would be myself, into three-dimensional form. Hence why the marionette, as you saw, go back. She has, you know, that weird little collar thing and this outfit, which in my mind I think looks quite Mormon. I don't think it if you look at the tattoo, it's supposed to be quite puppet-like. I think she looks a little bit more religious. But that's how the tattoo artist ended up drawing the marionette. And I was trying to be as true to the tattoo in terms of recreating her. I call her. And I think we ended up developing a very, you know, interesting relationship, because even though she wasn't, you know, she's not alive, she's just this thing, this sculpture, we ended up, I find, you know, treating her as, you know, a person, you know, making sure that, you know, she was always carefully placed. You know, I thought that was quite interesting regarding this project. And, so that's myself in the, well, as a puppet. This is actually, it is a video. I'm not going to bother switching back to the other format, because actually, in reality, I'm not really moving. You know, all it is just me there hanging there. I did get one person come and play me, and that was interesting, because they kind of got really excited about it, and, you know, you're moving all over the place. And I'd put the ladder there basically to give people a certain amount of height. Because we realized when you're just standing on the ground trying to manipulate, even the puppet, because she was quite heavy, you know, you needed a little bit of height in order to move the marionette or myself, just because of the size. All right. So now we move to another performance piece. It's entitled Mobile Home. So fun. This one was exhibited in Berlin at a gallery called Stadtbad. And that house is a kid's home. Easily, you could just build it, take it apart really quickly. But the performance piece was actually, I lived in that for a week during the exhibition. And the idea was that as it started, the opening day, the house is empty, I'm in there. And then during the week, I'd wander around Berlin, buying things, filling my home, building my home. And at the end of the day, at the end of the exhibition, I sold everything. I had a yard sale. And I was toying with the notion of what does it mean to be in, like to have a home, to be in a place. Because we think of home, you know, as always a reflection of ourselves. And so we surround ourselves with things that we like. In contrast, though, we're very readily, you know, we readily just give up our things. You know, we're easy, you know, we move quickly, we sell our homes to just go somewhere else, to go and live. And so there's this transience that exists in relation to the notions of home and being in place. It's sort of started from the Paul Virilio's statement that the airport is the new city. And at the time, I was doing a lot of traveling. And I just realized, well, I'm always, you know, picking up, gathering things, selling things. You know, when you've got all these bags, you've got to, you know, try and minimize when you go on the airport. So you're like, well, what can I leave behind? What can I get rid of? And so what do belongings really mean to us? Or are they just objects that we're quite, you know, we can quickly give away? So that's the front. And when I was in the house, there was a live video feed, so people could, see what was going on, what I was doing inside the house. If I ever left, I'd leave a little sign, gone for lunch, gone to get some groceries, whatnot. And it was up to the viewer to talk to me. I left it, I never actually poked my head out of the house and said, hello, I'm here. And that, again, was interesting because certain people you just hear them, it's almost as though you were hidden. And you'd hear them talking, going, is there somebody in there? I think there's somebody in there. And you could just see certain people were more confident about going hello and talking and asking about the project, and other people just did not want to have anything to do. They didn't want to engage. They were just almost a little too afraid. So these are some of the objects that I bought. There's a little hammock, phones, magazines, and there's this doll and those two little objects up there, little people. I had bought them, and basically I then just started calling them my friends. And so I'd take them everywhere with me, and we'd take little photos. And it was, when you're traveling, you meet people, and you have all these friends or meet friends, and you take photos to remember that experience with. But then even at the end, I sold my friends. And that, I think, reflects the notion of, social media and social networking, where, let's say on Facebook you have, 150, 500 friends, but in general, like, how many of them are true friends, and, how many people do you actually really stay in contact with? I think there's another image. Yeah, so I'd taken them on a picnic, and so we went and had a cup of tea. And this is them. We're just wandering around Berlin. When I'd walk around Berlin, I'd always carry my video camera with me, and I called them the Berlin walks. And so I'd leave the camera on, and it was in a little bag. And so depending on what, where I was, you get certain images that are really nice, others not so interesting, and just getting the sounds. And I think, yes. So now I've got to do that.
Just go ahead. Click that
there.
one. Yeah.
Oh God, mobile home. There it is. So right click, open with.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So this is, in terms of presenting performance works, it's kind of, you have to actually be there to really truly experience them. So what I'll often do is create little video compilations. And so this one is of when I was in the mobile home and doing the performance. Which hopefully gets a little bit more interesting than just the title. I'm not sure what this one's about. Oh God, come on. Can I scroll to here? I don't know why it's frozen. Oh, there we go. Okay. So the video camera was in the far right corner, and you could just see me fiddling around. The exhibition itself was with many different artists, all mostly performance, sound, and video. And so the sound in the background is one of the sound art pieces that was just next to mine. And and then the classical is from another room. And I decided to just include that in this video just because it really reflects like what it was like. Because by the end, I really hated the music. It was just, I was making a pillow. And obviously, I said that I lived in the house. There was technicalities that I wasn't able to stay overnight. So I would always leave when the gallery closed. They wouldn't allow me to just physically stay in the place. But unfortunately, but that's just how it went. Oh, yeah. That was me. I don't know. I'd found some snowmaking device contraption, so I bought that. Yeah. All right. PowerPoint.
Full screen.
Oh, actually, there's another video from Mobile Home.
Ah, right. Do you want to? We'll go
Yeah.
into it.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've got another video from the same piece, Mobile Home, Selling the Home.
Open with.
Oh, not that one.
Oh, right, okay.
Selling the Home.
Sorry.
That's okay. This one's called Mobile Home, Selling the Home. It was towards the end of the project, so you can see me just getting in. And again, it's just me playing around inside. You know, I do some drawings, I do some writings, and anything that I created, you know, would be sold. The sound actually comes from some work that I did in France, and so therefore that's why it is French. And I was just recording because I'm interested in different languages and how, you know, talking, and so I'd use those sounds in this piece. I think every work that I do tends to generate a further idea, a further notion. I'd really like to take, in terms of the mobile home, work again with the same idea, but create a mobile home that actually is actually portable, instead of something that, you know, you carry in a suitcase or in a bag and build. So I've done some sort of sketches, and I'm considering the shape of the snail home, because the snail carries his home on his back, basically. And that's the idea of where I'd like to take it again, you know, take the same concept but push it a little bit further. Regarding the puppets or the marionettes, I want, considering, you know, that it's sort of like another little side project that I have, where the puppet and the marionette will work on a single circular track. And then, so therefore the puppeteer would stand in the center, marionette, and then myself would be hung on a track, therefore making it a little bit easier to manipulate and, you know, just movement. So every work, I think, is a springboard to another idea. Will I ever get to that idea? I don't know. I find that within my practice, I work, you know, horizontally, not vertically. I tend not to just focus solely on, I'm working on this project and I've got to finish it, you know, within a time frame, and this is all I'm working on. I'm working on a sound art project now, but at the same time, we're working on this print installation. So there's always, you know, side projects that work, you know, laterally and at the same time, continuously. And that, I think, is just the way that I work. Other people like to just start from something and finish it from, you know, start to finish, and then there's the next project. Within myself, my work, I'll work on many different things. And I think that also reflects myself in terms of my art practice, because I don't just work with one media. All right, so we could stop. And PowerPoint. And that.
Yeah.
And, all right. Okay. So, just going to talk a little bit about the project that I'm working on now. It's called Sound Maps Hearing Spaces. So it's a sound art project, and it's based on Brown's Illustrated Guide to Hull, which was published in 1891. And basically what I'm doing is I'm walking around Hull and doing sound recordings of each location that is described in the book. And then from there, these sounds are heard via an origami fortune teller. I think this is, yes. So the origami fortune teller, we're all aware of it. You know, it's like the little children's game. And so what I'll be using is maps, old maps of Hull, folding them into this shape. And so when you open it, you'll press a button, and the button will play the sound of that specific location. Now, the field recordings that I'm doing, obviously, I mean, right now I've started them, and I'm obviously going to have to start editing them. Just in terms of the sounds that I'm getting, I mean, I've been focusing on the old town, and you hear a lot of cars. And so I'm trying to make it a bit more orally interesting, and also have my own oral fingerprint on the piece, because I don't want it to just be the sounds of Hull, there you go, you know, quite final. It's my interpretation of what the place sounds like. So I'm interested in that, you know, what does a city sound like? And I mean, I've done a lot of like philosophical and, you know, academic research into sound art and what does it mean to hear, the relationship between noise and city, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that each city has a specific sound, and I'm trying to extrapolate that and then have them heard through these little maps. Again, you know, active engagement of the viewer or listener in this case, because without the listener, they wouldn't, you know, they're the ones who have to finalize the piece, press the button to hear the sounds. And this sound art project stems from a project I did in Sweden. I did an exchange at the Valland School of Fine Art in Gothenburg. This building is a public library, and it, you know, stems out, there's just a square, and a massive square, and you could, you know, people cross through it. Now, historically, that square was the division between the upper and the lower class. And so when, you know, the lower class would go work for the rich, they'd cross through this square. I would just sit there and do sound recordings. I'd sit with my little video camera, field recordings, and do some sounds, record sounds, and then interpret them into, well, part of it was an origami map, and then there was also some video recordings. And because the project itself was never truly finished, I've now brought it back, and I'm interested in working on it within Hull, and seeing how the sounds of the city have completely changed. And it's fun going, you know, following the book, the Brand's Illustrated Guide to Hull, and trying to locate some of these buildings that right now don't exist, and trying to figure out, well, what would this sound be like? You know, what would have been heard at the time back, 100 years ago. Okay. Go on my, I don't know. So Haga. There it is.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Good. Open way.
So this is the video that I'd done in Sweden. So you can hear that certain sounds that I used, and I was really a voyeur because there's this woman having her lunch, and she had no clue that I was filming at the time. But I also felt that I myself was I was only in Sweden for 3 months. I was a transient myself, and I thought that this piece, I feel, really reflects like how I was feeling at the time, and what I was thinking, what I was working on. And the sounds are a compilation of different sounds that I'd heard, because I'd gone at different times, and I'd sit for about a half an hour, 45 minutes. There was usually a children's group that would come, and therefore that's where you hear the children's voices. Traffic, there was the church bells. basically the video just goes on with these sounds and the woman, and I'm just watching her, filming her. So I'll stop that. Okay, and PowerPoint. Nope. And yeah, this is just a detail of the origami fortune and how the button would be basically where my index finger, and that's how you complete the piece. So you'd have the button. I've begun to work with electronics. I did when I was in my master's. I was a teaching assistant for a course called Electronics for Artists, and so I do a lot of tinkering with like let's say it's a TV. You take it apart, you figure out how it works, and use it for in different ways. So this piece, how it will work is that I'm using the open source program called Arduino, and you have these little boards that are called wave shields, and the wave shield will hold a memory card, and that on the memory card there'll be the sounds. So basically the whole component would be hooked up to your hip, and you press the button, and from the button you hear what's played on the wave shield. And I wanted to show you one last video, but I didn't put it on my stick because it's still on, still on my laptop. It's a nice video, a very nice soothing way to end the talk. It was just basically of my feet in the sand on a beach in France, and basically from there you could see Jersey. And I thought that would have been a nice way to end, just because it was myself at the time in France moving to the next place of residence, which is now currently in the UK. I think that's it. Whatever. If there's any questions, or if you wanted to see some more of the videos, or in their entirety, or a little bit longer, questions, ask away.
I'll start, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because you work with multimedia, do you feel any kind of not responsibility, but do you favour any media over others? Do you feel more attached to any particular way of doing?
I think in terms of there's always etching, there's printmaking, and performance. Those are the two that I'd say always end up just being that how I'll end, working that way. I do try. I mean, I think there's so much to learn and so many different things that are out there that I like to suck it all up like a little sponge and go, oh, I got to figure out this and figure out that. But when I do, finally find I'm going to be working on this project, generally I think it ends up being performance or print. I think those are the two strands that predominantly reflect my practice. But it can get varied, and I'll try and explore different things. And so. Is that it?
Are you planning any performances here?
Potentially. At the moment, there's nothing planned. I think with this sound art project, I'm hoping to continue the mobile home, and that project would definitely be done. I'd work on it in Hull, and so therefore I do performance within Hull. And I do also think that my sound maps is a performance in and of itself, just in terms of when I'm doing the field recordings, I'm walking, and when I walk, I've always got the video camera, so I think I'm still using my body as to go through the city and record the sounds.
How has that practice, with the video and stuff, been received? Have you noticed how it's been received in different places? Is it different being in the UK?
Yes. I mean, I think within the UK, I haven't shown a lot of my video works, and I think it's just because I've only been here 2 years, and you're just sort of negotiating, where all the galleries are and whatnot. In Sweden, they're very pro video. I mean, that's all. I mean, their Biennale I think it was all video, like just one after the other. And I think they're really interested in video works and performance art. So I think I was very successful in terms, positive feedback. And in Canada, So, you know, so I think Canada, well, I can only say about Montreal. So my experience in Montreal there, maybe it's because it's so big and so varied that there's so many different hubs happening. So I would say that they're really interested in new media, but it's not necessarily only just video. I think they're more interested in that crossover between the technology and art. So they're doing, you know, like electronic for artists type thing, that kind of stuff. C'est bon?
Okay, we'll leave it
All
there.
right.
Okay, thank you, Alison. Right, thank you for attending. Just to reinforce, currently no speaker next week as they've cancelled. I'm trying to replace them. Keep your eye out for the posters. There will be one the week after. Okay?
Okay, close this.
You cancelled a while